Hey YouTube, this is FireWizard23, aka Charles Spring, and I wanted to do this video as a tribute to my friend Joshua Murray, who many of you may know as Murray123184, the gentleman who I did Let's Plays with a while back. And he tragically passed away yesterday, October 20th, from complications of cystic fibrosis that he'd been dealing with his entire life, and an unfortunate case of pneumonia that he caught that took his life very quickly. So I wanted to do a tribute here. This is going to be quite a long rambling video where I just wanted to talk about the things that, I remember him for and how much he'd had an impact on me and in my life. I've got a bunch of notes here I'm going to go through, so my apologies if this becomes quite a ramble, but I wanted to talk about these things. So, well, the first thing I want to say is just how I met him. And I met him when I went to college. I finished up my associates at one college, and I decided, I didn't really want to do that, so I ended up going to Linden State College to pursue a bachelor's of mathematics to become a teacher. And it is there that I met Josh. I met him in, the snack bar area. And I was like, oh, hello. We kind of just started talking and chatting, introduced each other. And I was so... I am probably the most socially inept fucking person in the world. And I had this idea in my head that anyone who wants to talk with me obviously was sexually interested in me. And we both laughed about this years later. We laughed so hard about this that I honestly thought the reason he was talking with me is he was interested. And once that got cleared up, we actually started talking and stuff. And we started hanging out. We started playing Magic the Gathering together, realizing we had interest in video games. I met his mom and his stepdad, and I learned a lot about how he had grown up and stuff in near poverty, which was something I'd never. My family did not grow up in poverty, at least to my recollection of how we grew up. We grew up very middle class, so it was interesting to meet someone who had grown up in poverty, and now here he was able to really take care of himself when I was in college and doing that stuff. So that was really, I found that really inspirational. Someone who brought himself up from that. So I'm just going to go down kind of the notes here of things that I can remember over the years, of things I remember. It's in my hope that wherever he is right now, that he'll hear this. And I'm hoping he hears this in some way. We always used to go to Magic the Gathering tournaments up north in Newport. I was never very good at Magic, as he found out very well. I mean, I understand the mechanics of Magic the Gathering, but I was never perfect at it. And he would put all these combo decks together, and I didn't get it. In fact, I think I went to the state regionals. I don't think he ever did. I think he was sick at one point and he couldn't. Because he was somebody who was actually in and out of the hospital quite often for his cystic fibrosis and cystic fibrosis-related diabetes. And it was comforting to have somebody that at least I could play Magic with who understood it really well. But something we did do quite a lot was we both got into Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while. And we would go to Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments at a local town. To our shame and embarrassment, okay, these were not age-restricted tournaments. We went to them where any age could participate. So we had a bunch of 9 and 10-year-olds at this tournament, and we would basically just kick all their butts and take all the prizes. With the exception of 1 or 2 kids who were actually really, really adept at the game, and sometimes you'd get beaten by them, and you'd have to do this walk of shame home. We're wow, we're in our 20s and we got beat up by a 12-year-old. Seriously. It was embarrassing. So there's that. I do apologize if I have some stories out of order here, but I wrote this together while at work last night because it was things I wanted to talk about. I remember going to Fun Spot with him. We went to Fun Spot in Laconia, New Hampshire, the largest arcade in the world, and I just remember us both being just shocked and awed at our experience there, and wow, this is the most amazing thing we've ever seen, to see this all together, just this huge arcade that neither of us had seen before. And I remember playing the games with him, and us playing Mortal Kombat together, and just going to the putt-putt course, and eating at their little snack bar there. And feeling very jealous that we didn't go to a high school that was around that place. We were very, very jealous of that, because it's a great place to just go waste $20. And I still have a Fun Spot cup as well as a poster from going there. I'll probably keep those forever now. Not that I won't ever go back to Fun Spot, but to remember those memories. Oh, chinchilla. Oh, God. We went to a pet shop. We just went to a pet shop here and there, just look at like the kitties and the puppies and stuff. And I think, oh, he had to buy cat food. He had a cat a while back, who I think is unfortunately passed away at this point. He actually has a dog, a little pug now that I assume they're going to find an owner to take care of Vader now. But he went to a pet shop one time and we saw this little animal in a cage in the middle of the store, and we just couldn't figure out what it was. We're taking guess, like, is it a hamster? Like, no, it's not a hamster. It's too big for that. And we had all the what do you call it? The workers around us, like, just going back and forth, and it just didn't seem like you could stop anybody to ask them. And finally, I just looked at like a jar of the pet's food, and it said chinchilla feed. And so I just turned to Josh, and I'm like, Josh, pointing to it, is it possible it's a chinchilla? We both felt really stupid. It was like right in front of us, and we're like, bleh. Oh, God, Pokemon, the first movie. Okay, Josh never in his entire life would ever forget the entire plot of Pokemon, the first movie, and here's why. We used to have an apartment together, and I brought a gentleman friend home. And if it wasn't clarified, Josh is not gay. If that was not clarified, he did have a girlfriend at the time. From the earlier story, it was determined that he was actually interested in girls, not guys. I'm like, oh, that was kind of a downer for me at first. But anyway, moving on. We had an apartment together, which was awesome. We had an apartment together for like 2 years, I think. And I brought a gentleman friend home, and we were going to do certain things. And there wasn't a door on my bedroom. So I had to drag this huge box in front of my door, but it wasn't like completely blocking the door. So like he could still hear things. And like, it's funny. This is going to get funny. Because, he was hearing us, basically. He paid very close attention to the first thing he could find that was on the TV, which was Pokemon the first movie. And he like laughed at me. He like telling me afterwards, like, Charles, I could hear all that. And I found Pokemon the first movie. I will never forget every aspect of that movie. All the characters' names, how they sound, I will never forget that. It was really funny. And I felt so bad. We ultimately did get a door for my room, and I felt so bad afterwards because I wasn't trying to do that. Like, he had lady friends over too, and like they would be doing stuff. But I never wanted him to be like that. So yeah, living in Lindenville, we had an apartment together. First apartment I had ever really had. I mean, I had one in a lady's basement, but I didn't really count that as an apartment. But this is like our first like apartment, and I just asked him like my last couple weeks in college, like, would you like to room together? Like, let's live in Lindenville. There's this place down the street. It's like $500 a month for the two of us. Like, why not? We got it, and I freaking love that place. And moving in with him, I remember the first days, like, wow, how's this gonna work? He got pissed at me. Okay, I moved in first. I called dibs on the larger room in front, and he got mad at me, not because he got the smaller room. He didn't mind the fact that it was a smaller room. He was bothered by the fact that there was one electrical outlet in this room. And he had to get this extension cord to drag into the room so he could have more outlets. It was terrible. Then there was the time when I was living in Orleans. I actually got years later, I got an apartment just in Orleans when I got a teaching job up there. And I had to move, moving up north. That was just by myself. But he would come and visit and stuff. Because he lived in Barton, the nearby town. And at that point. And he would come and visit. And I would go visit his family over in Barton. And I just remember, those were good times. I was on my own. And I had my friends nearby. And that was really cool. Aqua Teen Hunger Force, he freaking loves Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It is like his favorite show. And he explained it to me, like, you kind of look at Aqua Teen Hunger Force at first, like, you think it's kind of like just really kind of dumb and absurdism, as some people have called it. But his argument was, this is a show about roommates. And you watch it from that perspective and you completely understand the program. These are people who just live together and they have to figure out how to work together. And he showed me like all his favorite things. And I'll get back to that, but it was like one of his favorite shows. And as you can tell, most of these stories are just, just things I remember, just things I will remember about him. Just, funny moments. Hoosiers. Okay, I was substitute teaching for a while, and I had shown the movie Hoosiers to my classroom. And we're watching the very end sequence. Now, the entire movie Hoosiers is full of white people. I mean, I'm not even going to deny that. I mean, I think the thing is set like 1960s or something like that, but the entire movie is set with white people. It's like a little podunk white people town and stuff. And the very last sequence of the movie, where you have the underdog team, they're going to come back as the white team from this little town. They've come up from obscurity. They're facing off against a team that, for the first time in the entire movie, we see black people. I'm not even kidding. Like, unless I just completely forgot it, I do not remember any other black people in this movie. And one of my students, while watching this film, this is about, I think, like the second time I'd shown it that day, asked, boy, I wonder how they're going to, they were like behind, like, oh, I wonder how they're going to get out of this one. And I said it. I was like, I thought about it in my, I just thought about it in my head. I was like, introduce lynching? And I just started chuckling and laughing. I'm like, I can't believe I just thought of that. Boo, bad Charles. That's really bad. That's not okay. And my students just look at me because I'm just chuckling and laughing, and they can't figure out. And I didn't say anything. I just thought about it, and I'm just like, and they just look at me curious, like, what are you laughing at? Like, nothing particularly funny happened on screen. No, it was just a basketball game just going on. I'm like, just keep watching. It's okay. And they turned around and just kind of shrugged and couldn't figure out what was going on. If the kid hadn't said that, I would have thought of it, but it was just so funny because I just kind of put all his elements together. And I described this whole thing to Josh later, and I said, have you seen the movie Hoosiers? Like, yeah, and I just described it. I described that observation I made that there was, like, only black people in this movie at the very last sequence of the movie, in which there's actually black people on the basketball team, on the opposing basketball team. And I explained what the student said and what I thought about, and he's like, he realized how funny it was, and he just kind of did what he would do in the class, which would be like, they're out. Just they're out. Just how much in trouble we'd be if we actually said that out loud. Like, no, that's not okay. Lynching is bad. It was really funny. Just that moment. Phone talks. I remember, and unfortunately we didn't have any, in the recent years we hadn't had any, to be fair, I hadn't actually physically seen Josh in about a year and a half. I'll just talk about the last time I saw him. But I remember having phone talks with Josh that would last like 2 hours. Like, we would just, I've never thought that was possible. To have just such, and I don't know that we really necessarily talk about anything important. Sometimes it was important, but just, we could sit and talk for hours about things. And just go off on tangents and just be having these really deep conversations about how we felt about things in the world and politics and video games or art or just anything. I'm gonna miss that. One of them specifically, for those who don't know, I am one of 6 children, one of which unfortunately has passed away, very tragically. And I learned through a very surprising circumstance that my dad is not the same as my other 4 siblings' dad. It's not the same dad. And how that consequently resulted in family changes. My creation resulted in many family changes. And this kind of rocked me because, and this was when I was about 27, I want to say, when I learned this. I'm forgetting timelines, but I called Josh and just kind of told him this whole revelation that I'd had. Thank God I didn't learn this when I was like 14. I mean, this would have completely unraveled me. And I told him about the whole story. He's like, whoa. Like, yeah, I just explained the whole thing. Like, yeah, and that's why that happened, and that's why that happened. And he was, like, really a buddy and just was like, that doesn't change who you are. You don't have to be defined by that. And I'm sorry, I really am crying. But he was there for me, and I really appreciated that. Because that was really hard. I mean, I swear to God, he was my best friend. And I know there's never gonna be anybody like him ever again. Sorry. If this what I'm doing right now is probably the most fitting eulogy I could ever do for him. Because of not only what he did for me to be supportive and to be a friend, but what I know I meant to him as well. Sorry, come back, come back. Okay. Stupid screensaver, there's a program running. And oh, I remember doing our Let's Plays together, which if you go to Murray123184's channel, you'll find the Mega Man XLP that he played that I commented on, and then on my channel, FireWizard23, there is the Mega Man 2 X2 LP that I played and he commented on. Neither of us were familiar with the third game enough, so we completely rejected it. I did play Ocarina of Time with him for most of it. I know he did not comment on every single episode. I ended up deleting that, citing, just I realized it looked like such a forged copy of the game. I just felt like it really wasn't respectful to have that up on YouTube. Like, it just kind of be flaunting copyright, so I deleted it. And unfortunately, I don't even have the master copies of that anymore. But I remembered his funny moment about it, where he, at the very end of the game, when Adult Link is talking to Adult Zelda, she holds out her hand and she's gonna ask for the ocarina. And I was making the joke, Link, give me your zip ocarina. Said re-zip. He was finally gonna get laid. Like, nope, she's about that. I think we laughed back and forth like it was a cock tease. Like, what the fuck, bitch? I went through all that. Great. He was a great sounding board for my book I was writing when I wrote The Twin Blades and the Doom Chasm Brigands. And I wrote in the inscription to his book, because I gave him a copy. The comment that he gave me about my first draft, your story is a well-written piece of literature that drones on like a high school essay. And it was so true, because he commented on, wait, so they just escaped from the chasm. There just happens to be a cart with oxen. It just happens to have weapons. And they just happen to go in this direction. And just happen to come across the blacksmith who will make their sword. It just... Fair enough. Okay, he totally called me on it. And he liked how I switched it up a little bit. Like, okay, this is much better. Okay, you figured out how to make this, like, not so coincidental with things. So I really appreciate that. And I've decided, when I do finish the second book, which I am working on right now, The Twin Blades and the Lost Princess, I will be dedicating it to Josh. I've decided. That's for you, buddy. Oh God, calling me from New Hampshire. Oh God, this is a great story. I was teaching at one of the schools, the last full-time job I had, sleeping in the night. I get a call at 2 in the morning. Here's what had happened. Josh had... And it was all labor, like the first holiday in September, Labor Day. I think it's Labor Day, not Memorial Day. I think. Which, look at your calendars. It's one of those days. But he calls me at 2 o'clock in the morning, because here's what happened. He had gone to a party in New Hampshire, rocking out, yeah. And he went home, and I guess the guy looked under his car, and there's all this water. His radiator had completely opened up and leaked all the liquid out. So we tried to drive home, and like they couldn't keep it from overheating because they couldn't keep the liquid in it, so he had to stop at a rest stop. And they were in like a dead zone in New Hampshire. New Hampshire has so many mountains and hills, like there was just a dead zone. They could not get any reception. So like trying to walk along the highway to see if they could get some reception to get somebody. And they ended up calling his mom. Actually, I think it was Mike. I think it was Mike's mom they called, because it was... I don't think it was Mike's car, though. I think it was somebody else's, but they called Mike's mom. And they're like, oh, Mom, you gotta help us out, and explain the whole situation. She's like, apparently she said, it's too early in the morning for this, and hung up on them. So like in the middle of the freaking night, they can't get anybody. And they try to call, like, no, this guy wouldn't be there, this wouldn't be here. And I guess Josh just kind of piped up, Charles might be there. And so they called me, and so I get this call at 2 in the morning, and they explained what had happened. I'll be there. So I drove out. At 2 in the morning, I did a UE in the interstate. Then I got there. I found them in New Hampshire. I think I had to drive about 45 minutes to find them. In the morning, by the way. And thankfully, it was a day off, so they knew it. They knew it was a holiday, so they knew I would probably have the day off from school, which is true. I was like, Taxi Express, like, thank you. And they ended up later on. I guess like the guy's dad had to go back, and they had to like put water in it to drive it down the highway just to get it back, so they could fix the radiator. That was a great story, though. That was earning bro points. I earned so many bro points with Josh for that. His love of women. I mean, there was one girl he particularly dated. I'll call, just, well, her name was Katrina, and he loved her very, very much. And I saw real hurt in him, and I had experienced that kind of hurt when you're that much in love with somebody. And I think I, you humanistically connect with people, and he had. But beyond that, he he had this weird thing. Like, he didn't want to act like he was. Oh, I respect women. I'd never call them that. I don't look at women as objects. But like, the moment a girl walked by that had like really nice legs or a nice ass, he'd be like, ooh. Like, he had like no shame about it. So I think it's one of those two-faced things that men can just play. Like, oh, I'm totally respectful, but like, yeah, like the moment a pretty face goes by, yeah, that's exactly what you're. Um, I ended up showing him, and again, this is a lot of things that I showed him on the internet. I ended up showing him a web series called Queer Duck. We appreciated. I started to not like the show based on. I thought it was just trying to be just so gay. But he understood what it was and what, and I understood what it was and what it was trying to do. And there was a character that he loved, openly gator, if only for the innuendo, openly gator, because it was a gator who was gay. The Ferris wheel. Oh god, the Ferris wheel for retarded people. Okay, we went to one fun spot. There is those kind of Ferris wheels where it's literally just one seat, but it's attached to the wall, and for like a little kid, and it goes around and around. And I don't know who I think it was me. I looked at it, and I was like, oh, what's this for? Like, what goes around? And I think I just said it. It's Ferris wheel for retarded people. And we just started going back and forth. It was the funniest thing to both of us, where I had this idea of this. Okay, imagine a trial where we are cross-examining a retarded person. And I apologize right off if people find this offensive, but like, it wasn't offensive at the time. And we never said it's like an actual retarded person, but it was funny. Where imagine a Southern lawyer, very, very deeply Southern, and you'd be like, "And how did you feel, sir, when you learned that you're gonna go?" And he turns his head very dramatically on the Ferris wheel for retarded people. And he'd just be up on the stand. Yeah. And he'd be like, and he'd be going, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I implore you to see. It is a crime, a very damagement to the fabric of our society, that any man who wishes to go on the Ferris wheel for retarded people and can't is therefore denied their civil liberties." Or it was just a Southern lawyer, just to the greatness of his conviction. Like, I must convince this jury this retarded person was denied his right to go on the Ferris wheel for retarded people. It was really funny. I don't know where it came from, but we were in stitches for weeks on it. It was great. There's a Game Boy SP in there. Okay, we used to go bowling, and in some bowling alleys, there's like a little side area, like as you leave, or even on the side was like there's little, arcade games like Pac-Man or whatever. And one of them was like one of those skill games, like you have to get like the claw or like shoot a ball into like this really impossible spot. You get like really good prizes like CD players or whatever. And I looked inside, and I was like, "Here's a Game Boy SP in there." And Josh comes up, it's like, "There is not a Game Boy SP." Holy crap, there's a Game Boy SP in there. This is a great moment from him. Like, and I don't get a lot of those moments where I genuinely one-up somebody, and so I made me feel really good that I just genuinely caught him on surprise. Where he didn't genuinely, I genuinely caught him, and I was gonna go out to the car. I didn't really have any mind to play, but he's like, to play and even try. He's like, "Give me a sec, I'll come back." And I can't remember. I want to say he just came out walking, but I had this whole thought in my head that like he was trying to play the game, and then he got frustrated and like punched his fist through it. And this didn't happen, but like he would punch his fist through it and just grab the game while the alarm's blaring and running. So, and I told him the story afterwards, like, this is like what you could have been doing, and like, just imagine you running out of the bowling alley. You've got the game clutched in your hand is covered in glass, like shadows of glass, and you have blood coming in your hand, like, "Joshua!" He's like, "I want the game, let's go!" And like, he just runs in the car and just slaps the door. Like, "What is the blood all over your hands? What are the cops doing, building up? What are the cop cars doing up behind us?" Train! We were laughing about that so long. It was great. Just, try! We're that petty. We just want a fucking Game Boy SP. Great. Which reminds me of Fern Gully Bitch. From that guy with the glasses, the Fern Gully review. This was just when that site was starting. The Nostalgia Critic was just getting going, and we watched the Fern Gully review, and I wanted Josh to see it. And it's the moment where Lindsay punches Doug. And it's like, don't you dare try to bring logic into this. This is Fern Gully, bitch. And Josh likes you kind of caught on by the stories. Josh likes that kind of just that brutalness, and he's like, it was so unexpected. Fergo, bitch. And like, we both he's just in stitches. I'm laughing because it's like the funniest reaction from him. This is the best thing ever. He could cook circles around me. He made this great cornflake chicken. I don't know how he did it, but like he understood how to cook. I will give him credit. He could cook way better than me. When I had to leave his house, when I finished teaching, I needed a place to stay, if only temporarily, because unfortunately I was not able to financially take care of the place I was living anymore. So he agreed. He and his family agreed to move me in. An incident occurred where I unfortunately had to leave his house very quickly, and it involved essentially an extended member of his family that caused the problem. And I called him up. He was in the hospital at the time. He'd been going to the hospital about every month. And I was calling him saying, this is what happened. He's like, wow. And he completely believed me. He didn't think I would make that kind of stuff up. And I really respect him for that. And he even told me what happened afterwards, where, like, apparently the guy was, like, just trying to defend himself, like, that's not what happened. And he's like, he would not make that up. Charles would not make that shit up, what happened. And just, I really respect him for that. And as it turned out, very shortly after, that gentleman actually ended up leaving the family completely, which I was good for many reasons. MySpace. Back when we had MySpace, I have no idea if it's still there. I think I ended up closing my MySpace down. I wrote him a very beautiful piece of poetry. I don't remember its exact timing or rhythm, but I wrote him a poetry about how much he meant to me and our relationship and stuff, and he really had a lot of respect for that. That it wasn't a masterpiece by any means, but he loved it. Loved rap music. He was because of how he grew up and stuff, like rap really spoke to him as a person, and rap never really spoke to me. Though I will give credit, one of his favorite people, Eminem. His song Mockingbird is, I actually really appreciate that song. That song is actually really, really beautiful. But he loved that. He loved it so much. And on the same token, okay, I made an idea that like one day, battle rapping. He did like battle rapping and stuff, and I would make a joke that like one day I would attempt to battle rap, and he would be like, imagine me up on stage and we got the crowd all happy. They don't know, what's he gonna lay down and stuff, and like then he would just walk up on stage. No, Charles, just no. I am stopping this right now. You are not doing this. I am protecting rap as we know it. Don't you fucking dare. He knew my lyrical abilities were not perfect. My visits to the hospital, as I said, because of the treatment he needed for cystic fibrosis, he would have to be in the hospital about every other month or so. I would go to the hospital, visit him, and just to play. I'd hang out for hours. We'd be playing games, just talking. Sometimes he brought his video game systems. We got to chill out that way, and just to be together and just to talk. And it was the greatest thing. Even while in the middle of his treatments, and it was a really special time. And in this particular instance, and from a physical, when I learned that he was as sick as he was with the pneumonia, he was, as I now know from the timeline, he was going to die within 24 hours. And I was asked if I was going to come to the hospital to see him. As it had stood, I had worked an extremely exhausting weekend of about 5 shifts, where, my intention that Sunday evening was simply to just stop. I need to stop. I have to let myself kick back and just relax and calm down. And then I got told what had happened. I just didn't want my last memory of Josh to be with him just dying and struggling to breathe. Because I remember seeing that, and it's scary. It was very scary. It was very frightening. And I was also told that he was going in and out of consciousness. And I knew it was going to be soon. And I just didn't want that to be the last memory. I really just did not want that to be the last thing I remembered about you, Josh, was just seeing you die. I just couldn't do that. And I did feel relief when I learned that you'd finally passed, that you just weren't in pain anymore. But that was the decision I made. I didn't want to see you like that. And you saw it. I have to believe as a spirit you saw how emotionally wrecked I was. It wasn't going to do me any good to be there and just be torturing myself emotionally. Because like all of like the friends who were up in the region where he lived had apparently gone there, and I presume his mom was there and stuff too. And just like I didn't know what purpose it was going to serve, and I'm just being so exhausted. I didn't want to have to put myself emotionally through that, and I felt it was just the best way to do it. That I could kind of, and again, I hadn't seen you in like a year and a half or so. I didn't want the last thing I saw of you dying. I just didn't want to see that because I've seen a lot of people die like that. Maybe it's just fear, but it's like, I know you're gone. I know you're gone. I don't even deny that. I'm hoping I can make it to the funeral, but this will have to be a fitting eulogy if I can't. So moving on. Where are we? Oh, bowling and Pinky. Okay, like I said, we used to go bowling. He got a pink bowling ball at one point. Just the one he would pick from the alley. And he liked to shout, "Pinky!" as he threw the ball. It was just great. And I liked that. I wasn't a perfect bowler. I was kind of average. I was kind of an average bowler. And I appreciated having a good opponent. The Lingo Girl. Okay. We were watching the GSN show Lingo, which was actually a reincarnation of another show, but that's another time. And they got a girl in season 2 to kind of be the person who like put the letters up on the board. She was this blonde girl with this long, silky hair and a pink dress on. And his first gut reaction, he denies it to this day. I wish I had the video. She is smoking! That should be illegal! And like just, he was like just so into her, like just, oh yeah, I could totally get that. Like, don't you say anything against my future wife. Like, it was awesome. And he doesn't believe to this day that like he had that kind of reaction, but yes, you did. Oh god, Josh, yes, you did. I'm sorry I wasn't at the hospital. Josh, I'm sorry. I wish I could have, but I just couldn't. I'm sorry to interject in this narrative, but I'm sorry I couldn't have been there. It did happen really quickly, and I honestly believe it just wouldn't have done any good for me to be there. From what I'd been told, it just wouldn't have done any good. Stealing pizza. He claims this story. I have no recollection of this. We were living together in Lindenville, and I guess I came home and I guess I ate his pizza. And he got like really pissed at me, like, "You ate my pizza! You bastard!" And I just have no memory of that, but I guess I broke one of those sacred rules. This Taekwondo lessons. He started taking Taekwondo in his last few years, and he's really good at it. Like I went to a big demonstration, which was actually the last time I saw him, as well as going to Fun Spot in that same weekend. He was good. Is he really good? That is the last memory I have of actually seeing him. He worked really hard at his Taekwondo, and he really appreciated it. And that's also when I got to see his little dog Vader. Next. Alright. Oh god, when he was trying for a while to maintain his relationship with Katrina when she moved down to Texas. And and we joked that she would have like a cowboy friend down there, and like one day Josh gonna be like, I'll be asking Josh, "Hey, Josh, what are you doing?" Oh, I'm getting something for Katrina and her new cowboy friend. And I'd be looking at him, and this is stolen from Family Guy. I'd look at him, you poor damn fool, like just like not getting it, like that she's settling up with another guy, like, which they actually broke up. They broke up prior to her doing that, but it was just really really funny. He got the idea, like he's just so blind to it. It was great. Oh, when we were living together in Lindenville, I got a foot massager. One of those things you put water in and bath salts, and you let it boil on your feet just to kind of relax your feet. He thought it was kind of stupid, like what? It's kind of dumb. Like he put his feet in and he didn't really understand it. He was working at Taco Bell at the time, and he came home and he'd be like really pissed, like customers were like terrible today, and like that's awful. I hate these people. They're so mean. And he was sore on his feet and stuff. I'm like, try the foot massager. And he's like, oh, now do you get it? Yep. He'd always tell me I don't like getting my knuckles dirty because he realized how much I outsource things. Like when my car breaks down, I would make sure to pay somebody else to do it. Like I'm just not somebody who likes to do hard work. Like, can somebody else do it? Yeah. And not that I was lazy. It's just there's certain things I like doing, certain things I don't like doing, and I'd rather just pay people for the things I don't like doing. I always wondered if I was a really selfish person. And his response to me is, you're not selfish, you're self-focused. I do really focus a lot on myself, but I don't do it to the point of hurting other people. Or taking advantage of other people. That's not my style, but I will do things more for myself than others. And I still kind of consider it a fault. Hell, it is a fault. I know it is. But I'll work on it. I promise I will. We had a video game tournament, just me and him, where we decided to basically sit down and play video games literally the entire day. That was a great day. I think from like just we played this game and this game, just everything, like 10 hours. And I actually made a pair of trophy statues. I gave him one and I have one that just says video game participant, whatever year it was, and a participant. Basically no winners. I'm going to treasure that statue now. Oh God. We went to the movies. I'm sorry, I'm just really having trouble holding it together. We went to the movies watching Up when it came out, and watched the whole movie, and we really liked it. And towards lights came on after the movie was finished. He says, "Whatever happened to that girl at the beginning?" And I thought for a moment, yeah, that girl, when Carl was a kid. Like, that was his wife! Like that was Ellie! And he looks at the screen, he thinks for a minute, oh my God, that makes the movie like 5 times better! Just did not put a detail like that. It was great. This is those great moments with friends, like, you just have to clue over somebody in. It was awesome. The things, and as I've mentioned before, the things I showed him on YouTube, like, there's a bad car commercial that starts with, fuck you, Baltimore, and if anyone's ever seen that movie, and he laughed so hard at the end of it, I think it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen, that I never showed him. I love that. Betty Boo. Okay, I heard the song, Betty Boo Doing the Do. At some point on the radio, I thought it was really catchy, so I actually looked up the actual song and listened to it, like, wow, this is really fun, and it became, like, my favorite song for a while. And I let Josh hear it. Like, watch this song. And, being a rap person and stuff, he listened to the whole thing, he was like, it's terrible! He just thought it was the most terrible thing he'd ever fucking seen. And one of those things where maybe our opinion's different. I just like the fact that it had a lot of energy and a jumpy beat, like, but he just hated how just shallow it was. It had nothing to do with anything. He hated it. He showed me Candy Mountain with Charlie Candy Mountain, and just we both died laughing at the very end of it. Oh my God, they took my fucking candy. It's great. We're going to Candy Mountain, Charlie. Have a magical adventure. It's awesome. I remember when he worked at the Mainway. In Irving? Yeah, in Irving Mainway. And he would call me telling me like, oh god, this customer did this and this customer did this. And I was working at a Jolly at the same time doing that, and like we would talk about like, oh yeah, I've had this customer do this and this and this and it's awful. And it was fun to be able to relate similar experiences. I had to have surgery. For those who remember, I had to have surgery to repair a hernia, and I talked with him in regards to that surgery. Before and afterwards, I talked to him about what was happening. And I told him about how my sister didn't really understand, like, how scared I was going to surgery, and she was also making fun of it. He didn't think I was making fun of it. He didn't think that... He understood it was okay to be scared. Because he had had surgeries and stuff, and, like, I didn't... It was alright to be scared. He just understood that it was okay. He, he never picked on me. He never tried to act like that I was someone stupid, or at least if it ever happened, he was quick to apologize for it. And I really respect him for that. At one point, I guess his friends wanted him to hang out with them. Either like drinking or something. I don't remember what it was. And I guess he was getting criticized by them because they felt this hang out with me. Oh, you want to hang out with that fag, or something to that effect. And he was like, yeah, I'd rather hang out with him. Like, he was just kind of mad at it. I think it was just a temporary issue, but it was something that they had done. And I don't know what it was. If any of them are listening to this, I do not know exactly what the issue was. He was mad at them about something. And and he told me that story, and I'm like, I just had so much respect for him. Like, wow, like he actually values me to the point that he would spend time with me. Sorry about that. There's something going on in the background. Oh god. But it's not that he didn't drink. He had a wedding he was going to, and he related the story with me that apparently he drank quite heavily during either a bachelor party or some kind of pre-party. I don't know exactly what he went to, but he went to get his tux, like his actual clothes. Apparently he was still intoxicated the next day going to get the clothes, and like he just could not put coherent thoughts together. Like the guy was asking him, okay, well you'll need socks for your outfit. Okay, why do I need that? Like, just he could not put thoughts together. In fact, there was a great. He told me the story. Like, yeah, I was gone. But it was a great. I saw a wonderful video where he can dance quite well. In fact, that's the next thing I was going to talk about. His dancing skills are amazing. He could dance quite well. I hope anyone who's ever seen him dance will absolutely commend that. There's a Robot Chicken dance-off that he freaking loved with Voltron and a monster that he freaking loved. There was... Oh, now, here's the thing. He liked movies like Step Up and You Got Served. Like, he loved, like... He's like, these are professional dancers. Like, we're watching it. I'm like... I kind of argued, like, if you're having more than multiple people, then you cease to be... I argue that ceases to be dancing at that point because this is more of a performance as opposed to dancing. Because I argue dancing is a more intimate thing involving smaller groups. And I finally said, there was one thing he finally did consent on, which was that, okay, you can say whatever you want about the dancing, but these stories are stupid. He's like, oh yeah, the stories are dumb and stupid. Like, even he would admit that, yeah, okay, the dancing's awesome, the story's fucking stupid. Like, oh, you try to take my girl, I'm good dancing, you got served. Like, okay, that's really dumb. He would admit that. Oh, like I said, I showed him on YouTube. I liked the Duck Song. Type in the Duck Song on YouTube and you'll see it. And I thought it was cute. And like, he's like, this is boring. Like, he like wanted like the guy to get like really pissed off and be like, you come over here, you motherfucking duck, I'm gonna shoot your head off. Like, he wanted something like that. Like, I just thought it was cute, but I got his humor. Even I was chuckling a little bit. I remember showing him The Maury video, like how the Maury show has, the paternity test, you are the father, you are not the father, merged with the Price is Right double showcase win theme. And he, like, died laughing because it's really, really funny. If you ever type that into YouTube, it's such a funny video. I also showed him Damon from Reboot, who I thought was just this great, powerful villain who's powerful and she knows it. And it's such a difficult kind of villain to make. You watch her and it's like, she's not concerned about the bad guy at all, and he the good guys at all, and he like completely agreed with me. Like just how she does her plans and stuff. Like, she's just a great villain. Um, and I showed him Kuro Sentai Zoo Ranger, which which the biggest thing was actually the difference from the original Power Rangers, and he was amazed at how much was taken from Power Rangers. He's like, they stole the Morphers? Like, oh wow, like she's like way more menacing than Rita is, like, Witch Pandora. And just to share those things and to show that he cared about what I liked. He was a great person to talk to as my teaching career came to an end, because he talked to me like during teaching. He's like, I've never heard you this stressed. I have never heard you this angry. Because I was just so frustrated with the students who just would not listen, with an administration that was just so distant, with parents who were so negligent of their responsibility as parents, and it was just such a terrible situation. I left teaching in such an emotionally distraught state. I I've finally just about come back from it. Just barely I've come back from it. I still get angry here and there about things that happen, but like it's kind of past now. But he was a great person to just kind of let it out, and and actually one of the last things I sent him on Facebook, I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to just tell him, thank you for all that. Thank you for being there. And he told me I was one of his best friends. That was back in August. We watched Family Guy. And there's the episode Brian and Stewie, where they're locked inside a vault. Or Stewie and Brian, I don't remember the name of the episode. We learned that Brian had a gun in his safety deposit box. We watched it together, and I think we were just killing time. We watched it together, and there's a moment where Stewie, you can't shoot with a gun, Stewie. Oh yeah? What if I hold it sideways like a black guy? And Josh is like, what? You can't say that. And we both started laughing. Like, I didn't. Because of the kinds of things he likes, like that just hit him much more than it hit me. And I laughed so hard. It was great. I remember teaching him couponing and showing him the finer points, which he loved, and he was amazed at how much I could save. He's like, oh, so like this is try to be free, so like if you don't like it, you can send the receipt and get your money back. No, you just get your money back, whether you like it or not. Like, really? Like, he was amazed. Like, all this stuff's just sitting there, because at that point, like, it had just like opened up for me, like the whole breast of couponing and what it could be, and I was so happy to share it with him, and I showed him what I could do. Like, I'd bring home this like table full of groceries for like $30. He's like, oh, this is crazy. Oh, Dragon Ball Z versus Yu-Gi-Oh! We both love Dragon Ball Z. We both watched Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time, and we're into the card game. And he fell out of Yu-Gi-Oh! I stayed with it for a little while, and then I stopped. And we both finally came to the realization that the biggest problem that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has, what the hell's at stake? We see, like, Merrick trying to take over the world, like, I will get the power of the Pharaoh. It's like, okay, what's happening to the world as a result of you getting this? And nothing's in danger. It's not like we see cities crumbling or whatever. So there's nothing in peril. Versus Dragon Ball Z, okay, Vegeta's conjuring his Gallic gun, he's going to blow up the Earth. That's kind of a big deal. Okay. And Josh went on the argument with me, still watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is complete BS, it takes like three rounds, because once we started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! We realized how fast it actually plays. And he's like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is such bullshit, you have to wait like, it takes like 3 episodes to resolve one game, that's BS, and they totally drag out everything. And I said, well, in Dragon Ball Z, don't they technically like take like 3 episodes sometimes to charge up one fucking attack? He paused. That's different. Just like this really like pathetically trying to defend himself. That's different. It was great. And we just chuckled and laughed because I totally nailed him on just the most basic point of the show, both shows. It was awesome. We both love books. Both had a great love of reading and stuff. Unfortunately, I ruined most of the story from when I introduced him to the Pendragon Adventure: A Journey Through Time and Space by just describing what was happening in these books, and he's like just enraptured in what I can describe because it's such a complex narrative that has all these different things going on. We both loved the fate of Velox and the fate of Mr. Pop, which we both read like, oh my god, that's so fucking terrible. I showed him the Keys to the Kingdom series of Mr. Monday, which we were both like, so like, why the hell is this not a movie? This could be like such an awesome 3D animated movie, and like just like this computerized film where just all this surreal stuff is happening. Um, Towards the time that we left the apartment, which actually you could see the apartment in this picture in the background. That's actually my room where I took the picture, and he actually owed me. It was like $1,500 or something like that we agreed that he owed me as a result because he actually had to leave the lease, and I stayed there for the duration of the lease. I actually ended up finding the roommate, and it took a while, but he made good on it. He made good on the entire thing. He did not shirk me at all, unlike other people I've known. I even made a joke where he came over to visit me one time, and I was like they saw my listing of what he owed me. It was just kind of sitting on the table, and I was like, "Yeah, where's the money? Where's the money?" Like I got all up in his face, and like he like started tripping backwards on shoes. It was like, oh, it's like a gangster throw down, you know? Where's the money? It was funny. We laughed about it for a while. And I remembered, playing on his Xbox Live with Castle Crashers and Pac-Man World Championship Edition and all the games he had there. That's it. Josh, I'm gonna miss you so much. I hope I see you again someday. In fact, I know I will. Well, that's about all I can say. Goodbye, Josh.